Welcome back, folks. This tutorial will be showing us the basics of Adobe Illustrator. So if you're onto this lesson, then you should have this Canvas course already up on your login. So first thing you need to do is go into the pen tool Adobe Illustrator module, and if you click right here where my cursor is, that is the Adobe Illustrator file that you will be using to complete this next exercise. So if you click here, you're going to see the download down here. If you go ahead and click that, it should then go ahead and open it right up in Adobe Illustrator. Now, upon opening Adobe Illustrator for the first time, you're going to see all your tools over here. This is the pen tool. This is the one you'll be using here. And if you look on the top part here, here are the anchor point behavior signs, and they're pretty straightforward. The description basically explains what that actual specific part of the pen tool actually does. Let's take a look over here. See all these little icons? Those are your panels, and from working with the other Adobe programs in the past, you know the panels are always listed underneath window, and you can see here there's quite a few in Adobe Illustrator. Now, over on the right side here, like I said, these are icons for the panels. I'd rather actually just see the panel. So up here, there's a little double arrow. That's to actually expand your panels. So if you click on here, it's going to then expand out the default panels that Illustrator opens up. And we'll be focusing on the layers panel. So the actual template layer is what everything underneath is on. You can see here that now this layer, these lines are on top. I'll actually be getting rid of these here shortly, but you can see here you're going to be basically tracing what's underneath on from the working layer. So I'm going to go ahead and take these lines off. You shouldn't have these lines on your file. And before we get started, what I always tell everybody is take the stroke off, or take the fill off of the object that you're creating. Just since you're new to Illustrator, basically what we're making are vector objects through here, and you don't have to do this, but basically I click out here, and I'm actually going to change this fill color to say red, and whenever I drag this out here, I have now just created an object, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here, and you can see here that the outside outline is black. That's what they consider the stroke, and this red part in here, that's what you consider the fill. And once you've created an object, you can click back on your selection tool, and you can manipulate that. You can actually double click your fill, and these little three options down here will change that. You can actually make your fill into a gradient or have none as your fill. So if I actually click that, it'll actually take the fill off, and you can actually see if I move this around here, you can see whatever's behind it will then show through. I'm going to go ahead and delete that now. And just make sure that your fill is off. So you want to click on your fill once, and then click down on the none option down underneath the for the color options here. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and I'm going to make sure my pen tool is activated, and I'll just use this black stroke here. Once working with this, if you want to change the colors, that's fine with me. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll over here. Basically what we're doing is just following the directions through here. So if it says click here, you're going to click once and let go. And then I'm going to click down to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you always want to click back on your first point. And if you see, whenever I hover over that first point, there's a little circle that pops up beside my cursor. That is telling me that it's going to close this shape off. So now whenever I go ahead and click here, I know this is one fully enclosed shape. So now I can go ahead and click back to my selection tool, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill this in with the color option here. So make sure, just click once on the fill and then click on the color option. So now I have a nice star. Now go ahead and zoom out. So if you just hold in the Alt and then scroll with your mouse, it's going to zoom you out a little bit. Now we're going to go over to the right here, and this is where our curved lines are going to be, and it's going to show you how to make a perfect circle. And if you go ahead and before you click on the actual pen tool, let's take the fill off again. So I'm going to go ahead and click on none. And the reason we take the fill off is because it'll start to fill the object as we're going around here, and it'll end up covering up some of the directions here. So it's always easier to actually fill in with just make your outline with just the stroke here, and then add your fill afterwards. So I'm going to click on the pen tool, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so we can see it a little bit better. Now, working with curved lines, we're going to have to click and drag, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit about how this works. So what it says is click and press here, then you're going to hold down the Shift key, and then I'm going to drag out to here. What this does, it leaves us our anchor point with a handle. What handles do is actually applies a curve to the path that will follow through the anchor point. So let's go ahead, once we have let go here, we're going to go down to 3. And see, once I click, I haven't let go yet, you can see that there's a natural curve through that path already. That's because of that handle that we just drug out. So I'm going to hold in my Shift and then drag it straight down to number 4 and then let go. And you can see that our path is getting driven through these 2 anchor points, and then that curve in the path is driven by the 2 handles. So now I'm going to go down to 5, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to hold in Shift and drag out to here, and then 7 to 8, and then 1 to 2. Now once I'm done with that, I can go ahead and click my selection tool and then change the fill. So then we have, now if I zoom out, we have a star and we have a perfect circle right here. We're going to go down to multiple curves now. Let's zoom in. And again, let's take off the fill. Let's click on the pen tool. And this one gets a little bit trickier. We're going to click and hold, well, click and press, and then we're going to hold down the Shift key and drag straight up, and then we're going to let go. Always let go of the mouse button before you let go of the Shift key. And then I'm going to click on number 3 here and hold it, and hold down the Shift key, drag it to here, and let go. And then we're going to go to 5. I'm going to click up to here and let go. And then 7 to 8. Here. This one is all click and drag, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to click on the selection tool here, and then once you click off, you can see the path that you created. And then if you actually go over and hide your template layer, it will actually show you that path by itself. So that's good. That's what you want for that one. I'm just going to leave that one as a stroke. The fill, it's going to fill about here, this area, and this area. Actually, don't do this, but I'll show you what the fill does. It'll fill from here to here, and then here to here, and then here to here. It'll fill all that where the path is, but that's not necessary. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. And basically this part was basically just for the actual path that we were creating. So I'm going to turn my template layer back on and zoom out, and if you've been following along, you should have your star, your circle, and then your multiple curves path. Alright, we're going to move on now to curves with corner points here. And you can see here's the curve going into basically a corner here. And there's a little method on how to actually create that little corner point that you'll see here. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in down here. So now what we're going to do, let's make sure our pen tool is selected. And we only want a stroke here. So I'm going to leave that black stroke with no fill. And it says click and press here, hold down the shift key, drag to here and release. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to click, hold in shift, drag. So now we have an anchor point with a handle that will drive this curve. So now it says click here and release. So I'm just going to click once right here. And you can see there, I didn't click and drag anything. I just clicked once and release. Now it says press directly on the anchor point which you just created. So hover over that anchor point and you're going to know you're right on that anchor point, because if you see to the right of the cursor, you're going to see a little upside down V, and that means you're right onto the anchor point again. So I'm going to press on there, not let go, and then drag down to here. What that did, it allowed me to create a handle. Here's the handle right here. So if you see a line, a very faint line with a little, it looks like an anchor point at the end, but it's really a handle point, then that's your handle. This is your actual path. Here's your handle. Now I'm going to click right here and release. Then I'm going to hover right over that anchor point again and click and drag down to here, let go. And then I'm going to click here and then click here and release. So this is the path that we should have created. And I'm going to go over that one more time real quick. So if you didn't get it this time, last time, follow along here. Click, hold in shift, drag. Click once. Find that anchor point, click and drag down. Click here once. Click back on that anchor point, drag down. Click here once, and then grab that anchor point and drag down. And if we turn this off, this is basically what you should have created. So I'm going to turn that template layer back on. I'm going to zoom out. Now let's go down to the curves with corner points. A different scenario. Basically, we have a curve here. It goes to a point. Another curve, 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 and all these curves are uniform. So that's how we actually want to make sure we create them. So let's click back on the pen tool. I'm going to zoom in here. And remember, whenever it says click and press, you're clicking and holding, and then you're going to drag it somewhere. So I'm going to click and press there and drag it straight up and release. And then I'm going to click here, drag down, and release. Now, here's a tricky part of this. This handle here, if we were to go over and click here, it would drag this path this way. We don't want it to go this way. We want it to go up this way. So right now, it's going to say hold down Alt/Option. Alt is for a PC, Option's for a Mac. So I'm using a PC, I'll be using Alt. So if you hold in Alt and see how it turns your cursor in that little upside down V, that's the convert anchor point. So what that's going to do, if we click and drag, we're going to relocate our handle up to here, and what that's going to do is then in turn reroute our actual curve to go this way. So then that was our number 6. Here's number 7 to 8. Now I'm going to do that Alt one more time. So I'm going to click on Alt and then click and drag this handle upwards to here, and then I'm going to go 11 to 12, and then 13 is the Alt again. Drag this up to 14, and then 15 to 16, and then this is the path you should have created. And I'm again going to just turn the visibility off, and you can see that it's nice uniform curves through here. So I'll turn that layer back on. And if I zoom out far here, we're through the star, the circle, the multiple curves path, the curves with corner points, the first one, and then we just finished that second curves with corner points. And now this one right here is combining curves with straight lines. So let's zoom in here, and I'm going to go through the method of creating this. Our path is going to be a curve, straight line, curve the other way, straight line, and then curve this way, and then you're done. But it's a little bit tricky, so make sure you follow along here. Again, pen tool, only a stroke, no fill. I'm going to start right here, click and hold, shift key to drag up, and then we should have an anchor point with a handle. Then I'm going to click here, drag down, and then see where number 5 is. It just says click. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hover over that last anchor point which we just created, and then I'm going to click on it. You can see it gets rid of that handle right here. What that will do is then, instead of dragging bringing this curve through that anchor point this way, I can just go ahead over and just click right here. And then that was number 6. Click and release. And then it says press the anchor point, hold down the shift key, and then we have to drag it to number 7 and release. So I'm going to hover over it, and you're going to know you're right over top of it by that little upside down V beside your cursor. So I'm going to click and drag down to 7 and release. All that did was drag a handle out of that anchor point. Then I'm going to go over here, click here, drag up. We'll have a nice curve there. And now 10, we have to click back on this anchor point again to there. And then I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to click right back on that anchor point again and drag up our handle to there, and then we're going to finish it off over here. And if I turn this off, you'll see this is the actual path that we created, just like this. And we shouldn't have any curves coming out this way or this way, which I've seen happens if we're not following the directions correctly. So I'm going to turn this back on. Let's go ahead and zoom out. And now we're on to curves with corner points and tweaking handles. So basically we're going to be relocating our handles in order to get the correct curve on this object. And let's zoom in here a little bit more, and you can see here this light area. We want to make sure our outline, we're going to be going right along this outside part of the object, and then we're going to be stopping here, and then we're going to be coming along this other side here. And then this will be the end down here. We have 16 steps for this one. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. Actually, let me zoom in. You want to make sure that you're not dragging your handles farther than your viewing window here. So I'm going to make sure that the extent of what I can see is within the actual drag areas. So I'm going to click on my pen tool and we'll go ahead and get started. And I'm just using a stroke on this. So go ahead, I'm going to click and press, and then I'm going to drag it to number 2 here. Now number 3 is down here. I'm going to click and press, and then I'm going to drag to number 4 and release. Now number 5, it says click and press the anchor point which you created in number 3 again. So basically what we're going to be doing is relocating this handle. So I'm going to hover over number 3, and I'm going to know I'm there because I can see that little upside down V. I'm going to click, I'm going to drag it, and this can be a little bit tricky. Just follow this path down here and you shouldn't mess anything up. Drag it right down to number 6 and let go. Now we have to find number 7, which is all the way out here. So I'm going to click and drag to number 8 right there, and you can see that our path is following along the outside of that gray area just fine. And if yours is doing the same, you're right on track. And then number 9 says hold Alt Option key, which it's going to be Alt in my case, and press in this anchor point again, and then we're going to drag it to 10. So I'm going to hold in Alt, and I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to drag to number 10 and let go of the mouse before you let go of Alt. And then we're going to be up on number 11. So I'm going to click from here, and we're going to drag that up to 12. There. And then 13, we're going to click and press. And then we're going to drag to 14. So just make sure you're following up that path there. We're going to let go on 14. And then 15, we're going to hold down the Alt option and then click in the anchor point and drag to 16. And if I go ahead and click on my selection tool and click off here, you can see that my path is right along that curve. So I'm going to go ahead and take off the template, and you can see here that's the little design that you made. And I'm going to actually select that, and I'm going to fill this in with that red color. So we have a black stroke with a red fill. Makes for a cool little logo here, if that maybe you would have words behind that. And basically that's what this program does. You're allowed to make designs, and they can be logos, different graphics for maybe some videos. Even you can make characters for animations and different things like that. So if I zoom back here with my template layer off, I should be able to see all the designs that I just created. And for turn in purposes, what I would like you guys to do, just do a file. And if you haven't saved this to your Z drive yet, go ahead and do a file save as and locate your Z drive. I'm not hooked up to the network right now, but if you click down here, you should be able to find your Z drive down here. I'm not going to go ahead and save this, but save that as your Illustrator file. So make sure the type is like that, and then click on save. I'm going to click cancel here, and then you're going to do a file save as again. Do a file save as, and then, or excuse me, you're going to do a file export. So if you go up and click on file export, and now we're going to export this as a JPEG here. And because Illustrator is a vector-based program, you have to actually export it to get it into a JPEG format, because a JPEG is a bitmap based image versus a vector based image, or raster image instead of bitmap, both meaning about the same thing. So I'm just going to make sure this is pen tool. And if you want to just do an underscore and put your last name, I'm going to put mine here. And then I'm going to just throw this one to my desktop. You would actually put yours on your Z drive. I'm going to go ahead and click save to the desktop. And then once you hit save, it's going to actually come up with this JPEG options. I'm going to actually leave it right in the middle. About 5 is fine for the JPEG options. Basically, you're giving it the quality of what kind of picture you want. You're going to be uploading this to the website, so you don't need it very large of a file. The larger the quality, bigger the file size, and vice versa. So if you go ahead and click on OK here, and I'm going to minimize my screen, and then you can see here's the JPEG of my pen tool exercise. If I open it up, it will look like this, and this is what you're going to upload into Canvas, so I can see all your little designs that you created. So I hope this was a good intro. I hope it showed you a bit about the pen tool here, and trust me, you're going to be doing a lot more pen tools. So if you struggled with some of these, I'd maybe go back and redo them a couple times. You're only going to help yourself by doing it over and over again. That's the only way you learn, is practice. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you.